this amazing day. We come here on this Easter Sunday, obviously, to celebrate the life of Jesus, the message he shared, and the resurrection. I mean, that was a pretty sweet gig if you think about it, what he pulled off. Hanging out, getting on a cross, looks like he's not going to make it, and then all of a sudden, poof, he's back, right? Pretty impressive. And it's also the time of the year, obviously, spring's coming up, and so there's all this energy, this awakening energy, this new energy that's coming up. And I'm sitting there thinking about this celebration, this amazing example, if you will, of Jesus and his life and everything that he did. And I thought to myself, I just don't think we do a very good job of really understanding and celebrating what it was, what his true message was. In other words, I think what happens is that sometimes we get so caught up in the story, his story, that we forget actually what Jesus was talking about was our story. And actually his message was, go within. Go within. That is where you will find your answers. That's the story. And yet if we're not careful, we get wrapped up into his life, his story, following every single ounce of what it was that he did. And I just don't think that's what he would say. I think if he was standing right here, I honestly believe that he would say, go within and listen. Listen to what your soul says is your path. And find out what that looks like for you, because it's going to be different than anybody else's. In other words, if we sat here and we made a list of all the things that we're supposed to be doing in this journey back home, it would be completely different, each and every one of us. Even though we're all here, and we're all sharing in some beliefs and some truths and some principles and some practices. Yes. But the way that each of us does that is different. And it's okay. It's okay. And I think we forget that. I think that the message gets lost. I think that somewhere down the road what happens is we've watched history and we've been brought up. All of us have a little bit of a different story, and we lose what it was that he was really talking about. This awakening process that he went through. There's very little that's talked about Jesus' life from the time he was in his late teens, early 20s, until he shows up on the scene, and then all of a sudden you got a rock star, right? So we know very little. Yes, there's been some talk about him hanging out with the Essenes and also talking about him hanging out with the Coptics. He was working. He was doing his work. And we don't know about that, at least enough about it. Yeah, we hear things in the Bible that, he went away in the desert for 40 days, right? And by the way, metaphysically, in the Bible, anytime you hear about the 40 days is a cycle of transformation. How many days did it rain when the rains came in Noah's Ark? 40 days. How many days did Jesus spend out in the desert? 40 days. How many days did Jesus spend after the resurrection? 40 days. It's a cycle of transformation. That's what the 40 days represent. So we know that Jesus did something during that time. And could you imagine what an awesome time it would be to sit down with Jesus, have a beer, and say, so tell me, what'd you do in your 20s? Like, tell me what you did. I bet you it would be a magical story. I really do. Because when I think about it, when I boil it down to the basics, I think about what he really did, in my opinion, was he cleared out every single thought, every single one of them that said that he was somehow separate from God, from himself and from each other. I really do believe it. If you boil down his message, he removed every single one of those thoughts he had with himself that said he was anything less than divine and not connected with God. I really think that's what his work was. I really think that's what his message was. And then once he did that, what did he do? Well, he spent the rest of his life allowing this to come through him in such a way that he could share it with everybody that would listen to him and for everybody that was wanting to have that kind of an experience, right? I mean, you think about what he did. He walked on water. He turned water into wine. He healed people. And then just for kicks and giggles, decided to bring a few people back from being dead. Not a bad gig, right? And when I think about that, I think to myself, what he really did was he just shined. He just shined. Love, light, compassion, forgiveness, grace. He lived it. In other words, he became and embodied the divine. That is what he did. Love, light, compassion, forgiveness, grace, and I'm sure I'm missing a few, right? But that's what he did. Do you notice what's not in there, in that list? Shame, blame, guilt, judgment. Really? Yeah, really. And yet, myself, I was brought up in a place where those were the primary message. Shame, blame, guilt, judgment. And I think Jesus flipped it right on his head because in my opinion, when you start to connect with the divine, that's what the divine emulates. That's what the divine is. Absolutely unconditional love. So to me, the greatest thing that Jesus gave us, honestly, was an example of what it's like to live that life, the full embodiment of the divine. In a sense, what he did is he gave us a template. And when I think about that, then of course I have to ask myself, well, are you using it? So in other words, Jesus gave us this template, but then the question is, well, are we using it? Or, again, did we get lost up in the story of Jesus? And did we quit looking within and figuring out what it means for us? Or are we trying to follow somebody else's example instead of figure out our own? I think that is a powerful question that each one of us needs to ask ourselves. Have we taken the time to sit down and figure out what is it that works for us in terms of our own healing journey, in terms of our own awakening journey, in terms of our own process of what that looks like? Have we? Or, and here's one for you, have you put Jesus on such an unreachable pedestal that you tell yourself, I could never do that? And I think traditionally that's what's happened. In other words, this thing has been placed so outside of ourselves, there's no way we could touch it. Impossible. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that we can make in our own journey, in our own transformation. What's coming, Spirit is telling me is, well, duh, of course you can. But you need to let go of all this teaching, all these beliefs that you've had put on you in order to basically be able to do that. And again, I really believe that if we were to go back into the day when Jesus was alive, he would be looking right now and going, yeah, that's right. That's 100% correct. That's all I did was I removed all the garbage thinking that I had that I'm not one with God. There is no separation, none, because of who and what you are. You are the divine. You don't have to earn your divinity. There's no earning at all. You are it. But we have all these thoughts and beliefs. Woe is us. Little is us. Ho-hum, these little ideas. We play small. We don't stand up and step up and go, yes, I am divine. Yes, I am a sovereign being. Yes, I do matter. Yes, I can be heard. Yes, I can have a powerful life. Yes, I do believe in everything that Jesus told us, what he really told us. There's power in that. And I also believe that Jesus never said, you can't do this, but instead you can and you will. And you can use my story, this is Jesus speaking, you can use this template to become the full embodiment of the divine if that's what you choose. That's really what I think he was saying. So I want to just spend a couple of minutes and talk about this template, if you will, how I see it. And so when I think about the template, I think about the first thing that Jesus did was he realized something very simple. Eric Butterworth talked about this, and he talked about the great discovery. And I've already said it, and that is, the kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom of God is within you. Each and every one of you. It is there. It's not by a mistake, and it's not like it's not there. It is there. And when all of a sudden you realize that, then also you start playing with this idea that your inherent nature is your divinity. That's your inherent nature, right there. This is no little thing, folks. This isn't like just a little, oh, that's a nice little thought. Isn't that cute? Isn't that nice? Mike talked about this nice little warm, fuzzy thing. God's within us. Oh, right? It's not a little thing. Because society has tried to tell us everything other than that. That's the truth. Society has tried to beat us down for so long that it's basically taken it away from us. And there's got to be a moment when all of a sudden you just start somewhere, regardless of where you're at in your own spiritual awakening and your own process. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. There's got to be a beginning, though, a starting place. And it's this discovery. The kingdom of God is within me. Oh. So, in other words, my inherent nature is my divinity. Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Step one. Step two, what does Jesus do? He makes a decision. He makes a decision. Butterworth says, if you make a simple decision to accept the indwelling Christ within you, that is all that's needed to start the process. That's it. Make a decision. The indwelling Christ is within me. That's all you need to do. And then trust Spirit to guide you from that moment on, wherever it takes you. Your spirit, once that decision is made, will start to nudge you. And all of a sudden, you're going to start running into people. You're going to start finding places where you can have these crazy conversations about your divinity. You're going to find books. You're going to find people. You're going to hear songs. You're going to have conversations. All of a sudden, the stuff is going to start showing up. And it's not a mistake, and there are no coincidences. None. Why? Because of who and what you are. And when you stand in that power and you say, yeah, this is what I'm going to do, guess what? The universe has to respond. It doesn't have a choice because of who and what you are, the divine. And when you make that simple decision, all of a sudden, heaven and earth will move to provide you for whatever it is you need for your own healing journey. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't. But that's what will start to happen as you make that simple decision. Yes, this is it. Yep, I have something inside me that's called the indwelling Christ. Yep, and I'm going to let that be my guide. That's the thing I'm going to follow. That's the thing I'm going to trust. That's the thing I'm going to put all my faith in. And when that moment happens in your life, look out. Look out, because things will start to change. Think about it. In the book of John, Jesus says, very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the work that I've been doing, and they will do even greater things than these because of the I am. Okay, rewind a little bit. Who is Jesus? Metaphysically, the Christ. Not the man, the Christ. Metaphysically, that's who Jesus was. The Christ. And so when you think about it, when Jesus says, follow me, the metaphysical interpretation of that is, if you accept and you believe in the indwelling Christ, again, it's a decision. I'm just going to start to follow this thing. That's what I'm going to do. And if you do, this and far greater things will you do. Huh? Yeah. Is it really that simple? Yeah. But why do we complicate it? We complicate it, right? Well, it's got to look like this, but wait a minute, Mike, you didn't say 75 Hail Marys, and you didn't do this, and you didn't, stop. And I'm not bashing traditional religion. I'm not. It serves its purpose. It does. Right? So step 1 and 2 come down to an awareness. Kingdom of God is within me, and I believe in the indwelling Christ. There's something within me, right? And again, I think there's a big difference here in that in the traditional sense, what we're taught is that we have to accept this man called Jesus. And again, I love Jesus. I've got a relationship with Jesus. He's been an amazing mentor and a teacher to me. To this day, I still pray to him often. But when we talk about what the acceptance is, it's not him, the person. It's the indwelling Christ. There's a big difference between the two of them. One is you're looking outside of yourself. Yes, Jesus the man. There he is. The other one is you go within. I'm not looking outside of myself for anything. I'm looking inside of myself for everything. Why? Because that's where the kingdom of heaven is. That's where it's at, right? Okay, great. So I do step 1 and step 2, then what do I do next? You do your work. You do your work. We all have work to do. Can I sit there and tell you exactly what it is? No. I don't know what your work is. Quite honestly, half the time I don't know what my work is. But I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm engaged with my process of cleaning out all the garbage that's in my head that says I'm separate from God, right? And says I'm separate from my divinity, and it says I'm separate from my soul, and says I'm separate from you. My work to me is to look at that and to figure it out. Where am I telling myself I'm separate? When do I do it? Are there particular situations that happen that trigger me that all of a sudden makes me believe that I'm less than, that I'm not worthy of, that I can't do this? Those are the thoughts, those are the patterns, those are the things that I'm trying to figure out. Where are they so I can spot them and then I can get rid of them. I can take the mental trash out and get rid of it. And that's what I do. Because what happens is when I do that, all of a sudden what I'm feeling is that natural pulling I'm having. By the way, that natural pulling, I know for a fact if I sat down with each and every one of you, you would tell me it's there. That there's this thing that's calling you forward. There's this thing that's nudging you. For some of it's a push. And for some of it's a little tapping your heart every now and then where it's saying, hey man, something's going on here. Pay attention. There's a bigger game at play. There's a way bigger game at play that's going on right now. Pay attention. So there's this pulling, this nudging that happens naturally as I continue to do my own work. That message, that nudge is getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. That is what's really happening. So many of you are taking place in our book study group called The Way of Mastery. Beautiful book, by the way. Anytime you want to join, you can jump in. It's a beautiful, beautiful book, channeled by Jesus. And in the book, he says, "Therefore, indeed, each of you know that there's a longing within you that cannot and will not any longer be denied. You know from the Christ within you, the Christ stirred within you and is rising to take up its rightful place as your master. As you master your mind, you master your heart, you master your body, and you master your soul." Let me get this right. I'm mastering my mind, my body, my soul, my emotions. Haven't we been spending time over the last few weeks talking about mastering your mind, your heart, your body, your soul? Haven't we been having that discussion? Anybody been here, hear me talk about the medicine wheel? Pretty interesting, isn't it? So in other words, Jesus is saying the same thing that we've been talking about with the medicine wheel. Look at those 4 areas of your life and figure out, okay, where do I need to do some work? Remember, though, no shame, blame, guilt, or judgment. None. It's actually just the opposite of that, which is complete and total acceptance. Warts and all. Wait a minute, Mike. You got to be telling me, you're telling me that I can accept all of that, parts of myself, even the parts I don't like. And what I'm going to tell you is your healing will not take place until you can accept those parts of yourself without any shame, blame, judgment, or guilt. Your healing won't happen. It's an embracing of. We don't live in denial. We don't forget it. We don't ignore it. It's an embracing of all of ourselves, all parts of it, right? And then Jesus continues in the book, each of you know that it's absolutely futile to attempt to settle for anything less. It does not come because of anything Jesus has done. It comes because it must come. In other words, Jesus knew no matter who you are, no matter what he may or may not have done, that once you put out that request, it has to show up. It doesn't have a choice. It must come. It must arise within each created mind, regardless of its journeys, regardless of its attempts to deny what is eternally true, which is called the illusion of the dream of separation. And then Jesus says, it is inevitable, because the indwelling Christ will not be denied, cannot be denied. The indwelling Christ cannot be denied because only the indwelling Christ can express what is absolutely true. And what is absolutely true? The kingdom of God is within you. That's what's absolutely true. So do your work. Figure out what your work is to do. And when you heal, and you start to do your work, and you quit believing in there's any separation between you and the divine, or you're separate from your soul, or we're separate from each other, or there's any separation. And when that happens, then all of a sudden this beautiful expression of the divine can come forth in human form. And now you sit there being this full expression, and then guess what? You get to go figure out what that is for you. How beautiful. And that can be so different for each and every one of us. It could be something as simple as singing a song in the morning. It could be something so simple as having a conversation with a friend. It could be something as profound as writing a symphony or giving a talk or whatever it is that you do. But that expression of your divinity will come through when you start doing your healing work and you get clear on that. So I want you just to feel this for just a second with this idea of being in full acceptance of your divinity. Full acceptance of your divinity, always connected to God with your soul, right? With each other, and with Mother Earth. Feel what a difference that would make in your life. Feel what that would be, what that would look like. Right? Jesus goes on to say, only the indwelling Christ can transcend every limited and fearful creation, transforming them into a beautiful flower that blossoms and gives its sweet fragrance to all of creation. Only the indwelling Christ can do that. That's where the power is. That's where the clarity is. That's where the focus should be, according to Jesus. I wanted to just share with you the words of that song. I hope you enjoyed it. It's now become absolutely one of my all-time favorite songs. And so she starts off and she says, I keep fighting voices in my head that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again who I am, because I need to know. You say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. And you say I am held when I am falling short. And when I don't belong, you say I am yours. And I believe. And I believe. What you say of me, I believe. The only thing that matters now is everything you think of me. In you, I find my worth. In you, I find my identity. Taking all I have, and now I'm laying it all at your feet. You have every failure, God, and you'll have every victory. And once again, she says, you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I'm strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I'm falling short. And when I don't belong, you say I am yours. And I believe. What you say of me, oh, I believe. And when I really think about that, isn't that what Jesus did? Isn't that what he did? Came out and he believed. He looked past everything that was being said about who and what he is. Every single thing, he looked past it. Because he had that nudging. He had that thing that was pushing him. And he started to believe in it. And he started to feel it. He started to sense it. He started to trust it. It was more than he was. Much, much, much more. And he knew somehow he was connected to something far beyond what he was on his own in the separation, and he leaned into it. He leaned into it. And when I think about Easter, and in terms of honoring Jesus, for me, it's a matter of honoring the message that he had. And that message is simply, excuse me for a minute. Hello? I'm a little bit busy right now. I know. Okay. All right. I'll take care of it. I got it. Yeah. Hey, and by the way, thanks. Thank you. Sorry about that. That was Jesus. He's got a little message for you. He wants to tell you
He wants to tell you how proud he is. He wants to tell you you're doing an amazing job. He understands it's not always easy being down here, and that you can get confused. But he's really proud. He is so proud of each and every one of you for what you're doing, for the light that you're bringing, for the amazing, divine human being that you are. You're beautiful. You are beautiful. Happy Easter, everybody.